Hey y'all, this is Megan. I'm the careers editor at theflightattendantlife.com, and in this video I would like to discuss the two-on-one portion of the face-to-face flight attendant interview. So this is the main event. This is what you've been preparing for this whole time. It's the actual interview portion of the interview process. So for this day, you should definitely have a few questions ready, prepared in the STAR format, and have your resume nailed down in your mind if they have any questions to ask you about your resume. So I have 10 tips for this part of the day. Tip number 1, of course, is, as always, is to have a neat appearance. Watch my video on how to dress for this part of the day. It's extremely important to look the part. Make sure you look great, feel great, get a good night's sleep, have some coffee in the morning, whatever you need to do to feel best and look best. So tip number 2 is to know the company. During this two-on-one portion of the interview, the interviewers are likely to ask you a couple questions about them. So what do you know about our company, and why do you want to work for us, are common questions that are a part of the two-on-one portion of the day. Have answers prepped for this. You should definitely know crucial facts about the company that you want to work for, where they're headquartered, when they were started, and their values. Their values are extremely important to know because you might not agree with those values, and if you don't, it's probably not going to be a good airline fit for you. So definitely know the company when you go into this interview. Number 3 is very, 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 very important. Watch my video on the STAR format, because the STAR format is definitely the meat of this two-on-one portion of the interview process. I would suggest definitely having 4 or 5 answers prepared in the STAR format, ready for their behavioral-based questions that they're going to be asking you. And they will probably be asking you anywhere from 3 to 6, all the way up to 6 questions. That's what I've encountered in my interviews. And if you don't know the answer to a question, ask if you can come back to that question at the end. It depends on the airline. Some may say no, you aren't allowed any skips, but some airlines might allow you to skip that question for the time being and then come back at the end. Use advantage of this. If they're willing to let you skip and come back, definitely take advantage of it, so you know, so you maybe have another minute to think about it. And on that note, when they ask you a question, it's okay to think for a couple minutes and then answer. Just take a couple minutes, tell them, give me a second, collect yourself. Don't just blurt off the top answer out of the top of your head, because sometimes it might not be the best one. Just take a minute to think about it for sure. And your answers, your STAR format answers, shouldn't be one sentence. Definitely not. They also shouldn't be too long, so take your time. Don't be too short, but also don't be too long-winded with these answers. So tip number 4 is to know your resume. Your resume is a one-page summary of yourself, and they will probably be looking over it during this part of the day. So know your resume like the back of your hand. It's all about you, and you're the expert on you. And know all of its facts and be able to reflect back on your career path that brought you up to this flight attendant interview. Tip number 5 is to tailor your answers and your resume to the flight attendant job. Do your research, know what the flight attendant job is like, and then, like I said, tailor your answers to that lifestyle. I would definitely recommend placing emphasis in your resume and in resume answers and question answers. Place emphasis on customer service, teamwork, and times of stressful situations and how you've reacted in them. So, yeah, definitely gear all of your answers towards the flight attendant traits for sure. Tip number 6 I have is, that I keep saying, is use your active listening skills. You learned this when you were in like kindergarten, so take advantage of it when you're doing these interviews. Make the two-on-one portion more of a conversation rather than you answering nerve-wracking questions. Listen very carefully, try to find some common ground with you and the interviewers, and maybe make small talk. I wouldn't suggest making big jokes, but maybe a couple little jokes. and definitely smile the whole time. So listen to what they're saying. You might get a little hint into their lives, and that might give you the opportunity to make a connection with your interviewer. So tip number 7 is to avoid common interview mistakes. If you Google this, you'll find all sorts of tips. But use good body language, sit up straight, smile, look them in the eye, and then of course avoid common topics that everybody says to avoid, like religion, politics, money, all that. Definitely avoid those topics in your 2-on-1 portion. And very, very, very important when you're talking about your past jobs and when you're discussing your star format answers is to make sure everything that you're saying is spun positively. Don't say anything negative about any past employers. Don't say anything negative about your past work experience, whatever. Just make everything positive. Make sure they think you're a ray of sunshine, even if you aren't. Make sure you definitely come off as one in your 2-on-1 portion. This is very important. So tip number 8 is to have questions prepared for the interviewers. What? You guys might be wondering, why is this important? Well, when the interview is over, the interviewers are probably going to ask you if you have any questions for them. This is a common interview. This is a common interview thing, airline or not. So don't just say no when they ask you if you have any questions for them. Have a couple in mind to show that you're interested and that you really want to know the company, you really want to know what it's about. Show interest because you're there. Use it to your advantage to get to know the interviewers or the company a little bit more. Tip number 9 is to take a couple deep breaths before you go into the room. Staying calm is extremely crucial during this part. Just relax and be yourself, and the airline wants to see that you can be yourself in these interviews. So tip number 10, my last one, very important, be confident. Look your interviewers in the eyes the entire time, use a firm handshake, and smile the whole time. Please be courteous, say please and thank you. So being confident is a big part of this interview process because being confident is a big part of the flight attendant job. Okay, so the best advice I can give for you about this day, about this portion of the day, is practice makes perfect. I've done quite a few airline interviews before I got hired by the ones that I've liked. So practice with roommates, mentors, family members. Don't be embarrassed. The flight attendant job is highly sought after and therefore is extremely competitive. They're hard to come by, the flight attendant face-to-face interviews, so definitely make sure that you're prepared. Take advantage of the one that you have. And if you're too embarrassed to ask for help, definitely record yourself like I'm recording myself right now. Pay attention to any nervous habits that you might have, like fidgeting or saying or like. I mean, I know I have a couple things that I could correct, but and make sure you make eye contact the entire time. Those are all very big no-nos. So try to correct these before you go to the interview. And those are my tips for the 2-on-1 portion of the face-to-face interview. So follow Carol along at theflightattendantlife.com. Follow Carol on Instagram at the FA Life, and of course follow me on Instagram at Fly with Meghan. Okay, good luck.